All right, I'm shooting a video for Asiansleepy, and a question he just asked a few days ago. He does a series where he asks about um, different types of video game questions, and his question recently was about what are some games, or essentially, do you play games for their stories, like the campaigns that have decent stories, or do you play games for kind of mindless reasons? And it actually made me think about how many games in my collection that I do enjoy and I plan to keep, that I think about, wow, it's like they really don't have a lot going on there, but I still like them. But it made me really kind of dive deeper into what games really had a legitimate story, and had a hook to them, and had rising and falling moments in the game, characters that you actually cared about, kind of stuff. So I put together a bunch of them, and I realized that I went a little crazy with this, so I won't go into a lot of detail about every single game. That way, it doesn't go too long. But um, for the Xbox, these are two games that came to my mind. Knights of the Old Republic was a big one for me. It was like one of the earliest RPGs I can really remember that really had me from start to finish. Because it was really an RPG that was really graphically impressive at the time. Plus, it was about Star Wars, and it was right at the moment of when Star Wars was releasing the prequel trilogy movies, and it's like a lot of people, including myself, were kind of disappointed with. I think Clone Wars had just come out, and this game came out that summer. But I love that game so much. I know it's actually being remade. If you're following information just related to games and stuff, it's supposedly being remade into a probably like kind of like a Final Fantasy VII kind of follow, as like an action RPG rather than a turn based. Freedom Fighters was another one that I really liked. It's got a really impressive story. Just imagine the movie Red Dawn turned into a video game, and that's essentially what was really cool about it. 360 game, Sleeping Dogs was a really impressive, not only like the gameplay and just the world and everything, it was a really good alternative to Grand Theft Auto. But the story was interesting too. I feel like I always kind of have gotten bored with some Grand Theft Auto storylines, but Sleeping Dogs tried to change the dynamic up by having you play kind of in between playing cops and robbers kind of mentality. Red Dead Redemption is a game that I went back to earlier this year, and my goodness, this game is still amazing. Even after 10 years after it came out, it still was just it. I it was one of those games where it's like I've already played it before, but I wanted to keep playing it, and I wanted to re-experience different moments about it, and just marvel at how impressive it is to just ride around on a horse. Wolfenstein games were um, a series that I feel like really were awesome, and kind of makes me have memories of like when I got my Xbox One earlier in its lifespan. Because I think like New Order was one that I really was interested in playing early in the new systems, and then I would have played. I think, yeah, then it would have been the Old Blood as a basically like a spin-off DLC, and then Wolfenstein 2 was really good too. But the New Order, I think I've replayed that within the last 2 or 3 years, and that's still those. I mean, they're going to be great first-person shooters that will hold up over time for sure. Um, these I just wanted to include some indie games. I've really been into indie related titles, especially physical release indie titles in the last several years. And these are three that came to my mind that are fantastic story driven games. I could go into detail about all three of them, but I mean, if you've never heard of them, just make mention to them real briefly. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons was a really great game. Rhyme was, man, a great game with a good ending. Well, a sad ending, but just these are really great story-driven games. They don't have to talk a lot to really stretch out emotion and be a bit of a tearjerker kind of games. Rain is I think it's also referred to as Into the Rain, but great soundtrack too. But those are three really great indie related games that have good stories. All of the God of War titles, I'm going to put them, well, technically I think the PSP games are prequels. But Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, the first God of War 2. Back a few years ago, I replayed all of them and I knocked them out all in order, and it was a lot of fun. I actually kind of felt the urge to I started replaying this like a few days ago, and I got maybe 30 minutes into it, and I don't know. I still in my PlayStation 3, but I don't think I have a desire to play all of them. But I did like my time playing these when I did originally play those. I thought they were really impressive and interesting stories, especially if you like anything related to Greek mythology. Next up is a series that I just absolutely adore. I have to have them out of order here. So I like this series so much that I not only do I have it on the 360 1, 2, and 3, but I also have it on the PlayStation 3 1, 2, and 3. And I actually had been working on, because I've played these probably all three of them multiple times on the 360, but then the last years, almost 2 years, I picked up all three of these, and I've worked on, I actually have played these two, and I was working on this one over the summer. I ended up liking Dead Space 2 so much, and I just ended up replaying on my PlayStation 3. I've played that twice now, just feeling the urge to just play it. Probably twice now in the last maybe 15 months. This tends to be, these two tend to be like Halloween. I just have a strong urge to play them in October. And they're just, man, Dead Space is a great, great series. Next up is just making mention to the Half-Life series. I have played the original Half-Life, but for me, Half-Life 2 could be, you could probably get into that and be okay and not have to have a whole lot of backstory for how you got to the second one. But from start to finish, Half-Life 2 is a really fantastic game. It's a little bit rough. I remember trying to go back to it a few years ago, just as far as how it looks. It probably could use a new coat of paint, but from what you get as a story, it's a fantastic game. It's just really good, and it's not going to be something that's pushing you towards the horror genre, but it's a classic first-person shooter. Tells a good story. Gordon Freeman is a great character. Another one of those characters that's just a silent protagonist, but really great. Half-Life is great. I mean, such a travesty that we've never continued to have Half-Life 3. It's nobody even thinks that that's potentially coming, but who knows. The Halo series has always been one that I've always loved. I just have the collection here that includes all of them 1 through 4, I think. Yeah, I think 1 through 4. I think 4th one's in there. Yeah. But I wanted to just make sure that I mentioned that I love the story for ODST and Reach, and they're just really fun games to play. I mean, realistically, you're not doing a lot, because when you think about the Halo series, I often think about this, how much of it is going to a spot and pressing a button, or going to a spot and then the story continues a little further. You're not really doing any incredibly difficult puzzles or anything in the Halo series, but it's more about what unfolds as you experience it, and the gameplay, the shooting aspects is a great, fantastic first person shooter. Next up is the Last of Us series, and well, I shouldn't say series. I hadn't played the second one. I'm not really too excited to play it just because I've got a lot of other stuff to play, and I'll eventually play it whenever the price comes down on it. But the original Last of Us is just a great story-driven game. I've played this at least 2 or 3 times since it came out. Probably at least beat this once, and I beat that once. So, and I would love to replay it again. Continuing with Naughty Dog, the Uncharted series. I usually get into a kick every so often to play through all of these, and it takes a little while. I mean, they're not 30-hour games each, but to get through Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4 is not something you can do in just like a Saturday afternoon, but they are amazing if you are really a fan of something like Indiana Jones. And I thought that Uncharted 4, and I still probably think it's Uncharted 4 is probably one of the best games on PlayStation 4, even though when everybody begins to talk about the best games, they usually kind of push it off to the side. But I think it reminds me a lot, because the Uncharted 4 tells a story about like a brother type of story, and I have an older brother, and it reminded me a lot of like growing up with my brother, and how my brother always treated me like the younger brother that never knew what was going on, and I always looked up to my older brother, and that's what the story goes into with Nate Drake and his brother, I think Sam. But I just liked it because I felt a sense of connection to him, and him looking out for his older brother, and his older brother looking out for him, kind of thing. But the Uncharted series, man, I would buy those games if they continued to make, if they rebooted it or did something to just keep it going. It's just awesome stuff. Spider-Man, I played this a few summers ago, and this was definitely like my favorite game of the summer. And if you're a Spider-Man, I'm not really a huge Spider-Man fan, but it was something that I just really was impressed with as far as a Spider-Man story. It has great gameplay and everything like that. It really sucks you in, just like how the Batman games did. But it's just more of a recent example. Dragon Quest games. Dragon Quest 11 is the one that I've played most recently. I actually restarted playing that, even though it's like a crazy long game. Replaying it on my Switch. My son's been interested in it. He remembers it a little bit. He was a good bit younger when I was playing this, but I was playing it on the Switch because then we can like lay in bed and play it, type of thing. But the other Dragon Quest games, I played these just a little bit, and I just know that they are also really good stories too. But Dragon Quest, you really can't go wrong with like what you're getting into, as far as what they try to get out of their games. Next, these are probably going to be games that I will always recommend throughout the rest of my life. Will be both of the Nintendo 64 Zeldas, and that would be Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Again, games that kind of gravitate more towards like the gameplay and the dungeons, but they still tell really good stories, and both are a good bit different than each other, and they're not really designed for kids. It's what's always interesting is that like when you think about like back in the Nintendo 64 days, it's like not many like 10-year-olds are going to be beating Majora's Mask and doing it in like their first try. And I can remember playing through Ocarina of Time and just being so impressed with what I got from that experience. It's such a great start to finish game. I wanted to leave this to the last one since this is the one that is basically like my game of the year. But if you're a person that has yet to play this game, it's just so impressive. It's not only is it fantastic for the gameplay and the obsessiveness of kind of growing him as a character, um, to just figuring out what's going on and trying to retake the island from the Mongols is really what the storyline is about. Um, Jin Sakai, I was trying to think of what his name was. Jin, playing as Jin, and then like just trying to understand like the Japanese culture and the history of being a samurai is just really a great. It was a great idea for a game, and it really does suck you in as far as what is going on, and you start caring about the characters you interact with, and it just does. They did a fantastic job with this game, and um, I'm looking forward to if they make any more games similar to this. I hope they don't pump them out as much as like Assassin's Creed. I doubt they would ever do that, but more people should be playing this game. More people should be saying just how great it is, and it does deserve that. Next up, I was going to kind of lump these together, even though Legend of Dragoon is not Final Fantasy VII, but these are two RPGs that I really like from the PlayStation 1 era, and then I've been playing this recently. Both tell really good stories, and I mean, not a lot to say because I mean, a lot of people know Final Fantasy VII, but Legend of Dragoon is also really good too. It takes a different twist to the RPG formula and the mechanics of like trying to get extra hits in, and I've never beat Legend of Dragoon because I mean, RPGs usually you put a lot of time into them, but both of them are good examples of good stories in RPGs. We'll save this one for last since I do love this series so much. That's the Resident Evil series, and so I got multiple Resident Evil 2s here, Resident Evil 3s, and then 4. I have some of the other ones like 5 and 6 and Revelations and all those, and Code Veronica, but I just wanted to get these out. These are the ones I probably would most often replay. And I have successfully beat all of them. Every single one of these games I'm looking at right now, beat at least once or multiple times. I always tend to like replay this, and then I have the desire to replay this, and then sometimes I really have been liking to replay this for some reason the last few years. Zero, I just really like, and then a lot of people were real negative to this, and I just really like this one. I think the Resident Evil series, although you play them because of like the whole experience, but they do tell pretty decent stories, and I think that the whole package of what you get with Resident Evil is just really has always been impressive to me. I think that if Capcom were to just reboot the series completely, I would be really happy fan, because I know that they could just kind of reinvent things, and just as long as it's not first person and they just kind of stick with this formula, if they go back to tank controls, or they go back to action style, or they kind of have a blending of some of kind of like these types of games and just keep making more of these, then great job, Capcom. But anyway, these are the games that I would recommend as far as being great story games, and I hope that maybe some of them I've talked about that can be examples of some that maybe some people could check out if you've never checked out some of these games. And but yeah, this is again just a video for Asiansleepy, just from his question that he asked. So anyway, let me know what you think. Later.